So we're back with Shawdowdark. It sort of looked through magic last time, kind of all the various spells. Well, we only read through about half of them, but enough for certainly a good feeling. So we're into sort of the core gameplay section. Shawdowdark is like a sleeping bear. Only go near it if you have a 10-foot pole and are ready to die. This is our second sort of these narrative sections, example sections. Krieg lifted his guttering. I wonder if this is, no, I don't think so. Lifted high, the light danced over the stone door looming before him. A carved demon's face leered down from the portal's moldering surface, fangs bared. I should that'll just catch on the second one if the first one ends up dying. But hopefully doesn't end up being noticeably worse running both of them. Sure, it's safe, he whispered to Elena, who stood 2 paces behind him. She crouched forward on her toes, poised to leap aside. I checked it twice, she said. No traps. The demon's just for decor. Krieg raised an eyeball. Then why are you standing like the floor's about to drop away? Jordan's deep voice cut in from the edge of the torchlight. No time, they've cut our trail. A chorus of inhuman screams tore through the cavern. I see fear stabbed into Krieg's guts. No time, he sucked in a breath and pushed on the door with all his strength, half expecting some hidden sides or stone block to crash down on him. But the portal rumbled open, and no scythe or stone block fell. Beyond the threshold, heaps and piles of golden jewels glittered in the torchlight like 1,000 spiders' eyes. Jiral's horde, Krieg whispered, eyes wide. The story was true. We need you, Wizard Elena cried. Krieg spun to see a mob of slavering, gray-skinned ghouls lurching from the darkness, tongues lashing and claws seeking blood. A gust of wind caught the torch, and it wavered, threatening to go out. Crawlers. Those who dare the lost halls and caverns of Shawdowdark are called by many names. Crawlers, delvers, explorers, adventurers, treasure hunters. In this chapter, you'll learn how to crawl with the best of them, whether you're exploring a lightless barrow, mound, or the shrouded forest of Eld. The rules within will guide you. The first step to crawling is understanding your environment and imagining an action you want to take. Don't simply scour your character sheet for ideas and options. Your crawling career depends on your ability to think outside the sheet. Imagine what you would really do if you're in your character situation. Do you see a suit of armor in an alcove? Maybe you lift the helm's visor and make sure nothing is looking back at you. Do you hear faint voices behind a rotting wooden door? Maybe you creep up and press your ear against it to hear what's happening on the other side. Is a band of orcs chasing you and your companions down a hallway? Maybe tearing the decrepit tapestries from the walls will hamper their pursuit. None of the above ideas are listed on a character sheet. You should use your stats, spells, gears, and talents, and don't limit yourself only to those. Next session details through core rules of the Shawdowdark. Armed with your dice and your wits, ready to learn the legendary art of crawling, stride boldly into the darkness. So this is pretty standard. Um, except for this decider die. There's a random chance for an outcome, such as whether a drop torch goes out. Jim rolls a d6, 1, 2, 3. Resolve is the worst outcome, 4, 2, 6 is the better one. Okay, we saw luck tokens on, I believe it was Bless, but we didn't really learn much about them. Sometimes a GM awards a luck token to a player for exceptional role-playing, heroism, or just plain coolness. Big sacrifices, moving speeches, or incredibly daring maneuvers might be worthy of luck tokens, whether or not the character's action were successful. Each player can only have one luck token at a time. You can cash in a luck token to reroll any roll you just made. You must use the new result. You can also give your luck token to a companion. Might award 2 to 3 new luck tokens per player during the course of a session with a pulpy heroic feel. Alternatively, you might not give out any during a session that is grim, difficult, or dark. It's kind of interesting, and I guess I never really thought of it that much. How they kind of use wisdom as being instinct, basically. Um, but yeah, pretty standard. I think it also kind of listed earlier breakdown as well, and that's just sort of rehashes that. When to roll. Usually you succeed at what you're trained to do without needing to roll a check. For example, a wizard is always able to read magical runes, and a thief always finds a trap if searching in the right area. If you take the time to scan the sky for threats, or examine a stretch of wall for a secret door, simply succeed. Social encounters usually rely on what you say rather than charisma checks. Narrating a moving speech or using secret information you gathered to influence an NPC does not require a check to succeed. The GM asks for a check when the following is true. The action has a negative consequence for failure. The action requires skill. There is time pressure. For standard difficulty classes, easy is 9, leaping a narrow chasm, sneaking up on an inattentive guard. Normal is 12, you can open a stuck door, picking a poor lock. Hard, 15, swimming against a strong current, giving first aid to stop a character from dying. Extreme, 18, climbing a slippery cliff one-handed, restraining a frenzied lion. Well, a contested checks. Multiple creatures are working against each other. On a conflicting task, contested check determines who succeeds. And then, yeah, you just roll off. Time. Real time. Passes in the game world at the same pace it's passing in the real world. 1 minute or hour of game time is equal to 1 minute or hour in real time. This matters for tracking light sources because most light sources only last for 1 hour of real time. If you can't track real time in your game, assume 1 hour is equal to 10 rounds. Turn is the player's moment to describe what their character does to the GM. Players act one by one on each of their turns. Some turns need a bit of room to breathe. Character is speaking with someone can make a few reasonable exchanges back and forth. A round completes when each person has taken a turn. Every moment in the game doesn't have to be accounted for in real time. For example, if the characters want to spend 10 minutes examining a room from top to bottom, can agree and that time passes. When time passes, you note and move down any timers by that amount. Minutes pass. Effects with the duration of rounds expire. The GM rolls one random encounter check that occurs on a 1, 2, 3 while time is passing. Hours or days pass. Effects with a duration shorter than the time passed expire. GM uses overland travel rules to check for encounters that occur while this time is passing. After resolving encounters, the game will fast forwards to the new point in time. Okay, you do roll initiative. How it was described earlier kind of made it sound like this was an initiative-less system. Shawdowdark is played in turn order right from the start. At the beginning of the game, establish initiative. Everyone rolls a d20 and adds their modifier for dexterity. GM adds the highest dexterity modifier of any monsters if relevant. The person who rolled the highest takes the first turn, and the turn order moves clockwise for that individual. Initiative need not be strict. Yeah, okay. And that's kind of more what I was describing earlier around Robin, allowing players to decide their turn order and actions before circling back to the GM's turn. Players might declare their actions as a group or act simultaneously. You'll need to adjudicate. A round passes once everyone has acted. So on the player turn 1, player counts down any personal timers for spells or other effects. The player takes an action and may move up to near, split up in any way. The player can move near again if skipping an action. GM describes what happens as a result of the player's turn. GM turn. GM counts down any timers not tracked by players. GM checks for a random encounter if needed. GM takes actions and makes movements for any relevant creatures or environmental effects. GM describes what the characters notice as a result of steps 1 to 3. Shawdowdark is any place where darkness, danger, and myth reign supreme. It could be crumbling ruins, ancient mountain strongholds, or mysterious towers. It could be gloomy forests, trap-laden pyramids, or haunted sea caves. Well, I think the main one has died at this point, so I really hope the other one is actually picking up. I can't move it, so hopefully I can. Yeah, I noticed it was low yesterday, but I forgot to charge it. Well, yeah, maybe that's a better position. Shawdowdark is any place where darkness, danger, and myth reign supreme. It could be crumbling ruins, ancient mountain strongholds, or mysterious towers. It could be gloomy forests, trap-laden pyramids, or haunted sea caves. As long as characters are going into danger with swords, spells, and torches ready, they're going into the Shawdowdark. Characters are in crawling grounds while not in combat. They're exploring, talking, and engaging with the environment. All characters need light to see, but that's not true for the darkness-adapted beings of the Shawdowdark. Note that any area outside of a light source's illumination is in total darkness. Most light sources last up to an hour of real time and illuminate a limited area. Players have two options when lighting more than one light source at a time. When your light source rides along on the current timer, or extinguish all light sources, start a new timer with a fresh light source. GM can make rulings counter to the above. The purpose is to make tracking light timers simple, not frustrating. While in total darkness, a creature who is not darkness adapted has disadvantage on tasks it undertakes that require sight. Also, the environment becomes deadly. The GM checks for a random encounter every crawling ground. So that seems, it probably might, well, I mean, encounters don't necessarily have to be hostile, but 50% chance seems a bit high for a default rate. I probably might take that down to 1 out of 6 or 2 out of 6, depending on how things go. Because, yeah, 50% chance rate when you're rolling every round seems pretty high for encounter. Distances are broken up into close, 5 feet, near, up to 30 feet, and far, within sight during an encounter or scene. Climbing, strength or dexterity check to climb half your speed, fall if you fail by more than 5 points. Falling, make 1d6 for every 10 feet you fall. You can freely move through allies square, but must make a strength or dex check to move through enemies. Swimming is half speed, requiring a strength check in rough water. Make a constitution check each round you hold your breath. On a failed constitution check, 1d6 damage a round until you exit a hazard. During crawling rounds, the GM can allow the players to regroup. PCs within a reasonable reach of each other can come together into a marching order. They can also move as a group, taking a round each time. When needed, initiative shifts back to turns. Some effects impose a condition, such as blindness or immobility. Advantage and disadvantage apply to most situations. Use common sense. For example, a blinded character has disadvantage on tasks requiring sight, and a PC stuck in a spider web cannot move. While crawling, characters can take actions that might include prying a gem from a statue, sneaking up to a slumbering manticore, tapping on a suspicious wall to check for a hidden door, scanning a room for signs of hidden enemies, giving a rousing speech to a group of fearful townsfolk. An encounter occurs when any challenge presents itself that stops the character's progress. Resting. Injured characters can rest to recover from their wounds. To rest, a character must consume a ration and sleep for 8 hours. Sleep can be broken up for light and routine tasks, such as taking a turn on watch. Each stressful interruption of rest, including combat, requires an affected character to make a constitution check. On a failure, the character consumes a ration but gains no benefit from resting. Character who successfully rests regains all lost hit points and recovers any stat damage. All stat damage is temporary unless described otherwise. Additionally, some talent spells or items regain their ability to be used after a successful rest. Characters can rest anywhere, but doing so inside a dungeon or perilous environment carries a high chance of failure due to the risk of a random encounter. Other characters are resting in a dangerous environment. Game Master checks for random encounters using the overland travel cadence. Unsafe, every 3 hours. Risky, every 2 hours. Deadly, every hour. Again, something personal might adjust depending on the feel, maybe rolling every 4 hours or even once per rest for unsafe. Maybe 2 times for risky and 3 for deadly. At least, I don't think that would change the field too much, but at least people I play with, I don't think this just gauntlet of random encounters is exactly what they're looking for. So yeah, I'd probably adjust that down a little bit, personally. Um, in many cases, adventurers need a light source while resting. Characters can combine 3 torches into a campfire that can't be moved once lit. The campfire lasts up to 8 hours, while at least one character remains near to it and casts light out to a near distance. I'd probably allow maybe 1 torch and scavenged wood if, depending on if they've been getting wood, I guess. Creatures who are hiding or sneaking must succeed on dexterity checks to go undetected by other creatures within eyeshot or earshot. GM determines the frequency and difficulty of the check based on the environment. GM might secretly roll to check for a character if knowledge of the outcome impacts the situation. Creatures can't hide while other creatures are able to see them, even at a casual glance. It might be impossible to hide if there's nowhere for a creature to stay out of sight. Detecting a hiding or sneaking character requires the searcher to actively look or listen. Looking in the right place automatically reveals a hidden creature. Otherwise, the searcher must succeed on a wisdom check to perceive a sneaking or hiding creature. A creature who begins its turn undetected has the advantage of surprise. If combat hasn't started yet, those with surprise take 1 turn before the combat initiative roll. A creature has advantage on attack rolls against surprise targets. Attacking from hiding gives away the attacker's position afterwards unless the GM determines otherwise. Well, hopefully we can make it through the rest of the section. I might skip the example there, though. When a fight breaks out, combat rounds begin. Determine surprise. After surprise turns, GM calls for new initiative. Everyone makes a dexterity check. Yeah, okay. Characters can take 1 action to move near on their turn, splitting out the movement however they want. Characters can move near again if they don't take an action. Melee attacks use melee weapons. Roll 1d20 plus your strength modifier plus relevant bonuses. You hit the target if your total is equal or greater than its AC. Ranged is the same except with dexterity. Casting a spell takes an action. Improvise. Due to an improvised action such as swinging across a ravine on a vine, the GM might determine if it requires a stat check or attack roll. Characters can do small parallel tasks on their turns, such as standing up, speaking, activating a magic item, or quaffing a potion. This doesn't typically use their action. Okay, that's pretty forgiving. There's been stuff I play where it really penalizes you for having to stand up. So that's kind of surprising, given kind of how punishing the rest of the game is. When you hit a target with an attack or spell, you damage it. Roll your weapon or spell's damage dice plus bonuses. The GM subtracts that amount from the target's hit points. You can choose to knock the creature unconscious instead of killing it. If you reduce it to 0 hit points, you deal a critical hit if you roll a natural 20 on an attack roll or spellcasting check. For a weapon, double its damage dice for the attack. For a spell, you may double one of its numerical effects. Attacking or casting a spell on a creature that is hiding at least half of its body behind interposing terrain has disadvantage. If you can't see a creature at all, you cannot target it. Creatures can only move half the normal distance through terrain that hampers free movement, such as ice or deep mine. Enemies are reduced to half their number or half the HP if it's alone, flee. If they fail a DC 15 wisdom check. For large groups, the GM makes one check with the leader's modifier. Character who goes to 0 HP falls unconscious and is dying. A character who goes above 0 HP wakes up and is no longer dying. Dying character rolls 1d4 plus their con modifier on their turn. They die in that many rounds unless healed or stabilized. On each of the player's subsequent turns, that player rolls a d20. On a natural 20, the character rises with 1 hit point. It might allow just to give that X, because it's already a lot harder in this game to save yourself. So I might, just to give a player an extra turn, allow a d20 roll on the same turn. They roll the determination die there. An intelligent being can give first aid to a dying creature at close range. On a successful check, the target stops dying but is still unconscious. The character who perishes is retired from the game. The world is still perilous for fortune seekers outside the gloomy Shawdowdark. When traveling overland, these rules add to the crawling rules. The game moves in initiative order as normal while traveling overland, and groups often travel in chunks that comprise several hours, using the time passes rules as needed. Check for random encounters using the following cadence during overland travel. Unsafe every 3 hours, risky every 2 hours, and deadly check every hour. Again, that's something personally I might adjust depending on kind of the feeling I get back if feeling bogged down in encounters. Light. If needed, determine how much time remains on the current light source by rolling 1d6 times 10 minutes. There's rarely total darkness outside, even at night. Travel per day. PCs can travel for up to 8 hours a day. They must pass increasing con checks to push further. Hexes are 6 miles across. Walking takes 4 hours per hex. Mounted 2. Sailing 1. Difficult terrain is 2 times the normal. An arduous terrain seems like it's 8 hours no matter your method. PCs in unfamiliar territory must have their navigator make an intelligence check upon exiting a hex. On a failure, the group moves into a random adjacent hex. Think if like they've gone out of their way to purchase a map or something, that's something I'd give advantage on, even if they've never been there. Food and water. PCs can go 3 days without consuming a ration. They take 1 con damage each day after that, death at 0. A PC can forage for 1 ration per day with an intelligence check. Between adventures, you can choose to undertake 1 downtime activity. Carousing is a way for you to convert the coin you've earned into XP and other benefits. You'll likely come out of a carousing event with a new NPC contact, whether friend or foe. You might even acquire a magic item if you're bold and lucky enough. Carousing can last for several days of in-game time, so the GM will use time passes as needed. If you want to play out a gambling scene in detail, you can use the Wizards and Thieves game on 94 to determine who wins a bet, how many valuables change hands. Learning. Your character may wish to learn a new skill during downtime. In order to learn a new skill, you must find a capable instructor who is willing to teach you. You can't typically learn another class's or ancestry's unique talents. You can learn auxiliary skills. Examples include a new language or how to ride a sandworm using a harness. Learning enables you to do new actions or gives you advantage on certain checks. Work with the GM to determine what you can try to learn. Then make an extreme intelligence check. If you succeed, you learn the new skill. If you fail, you can try again as your next downtime activity, this time lowering the difficulty of the intelligence check by 1 step. So from 18 to 15 in that case. When you return from the Shawdowdark, you can carouse to celebrate heroic exploits. To carouse, each participant pitches in for the cost of the event. Then each participant rolls 1d8 plus the event's bonus to determine their own outcome. Each character gains the XP noted for the result along with any other ill or positive effects. The group decides to play out the results of an individual roll. The entire carousing group is usually present for the events. So you can be frugal and, spend a night out drinking. For a bit more, a full day and night of revelry, gambling, and recounting all your exploits. For a +2 bonus, you can spend 2 days crawling dozens of taverns to sing, buy rounds, and celebrate. For 600 gold, a 3-day voyage into the finest food, drink, and gambling you can find. 900 for +4 is a hazy week-long bender that runs multiple well-known taverns dry. 1200 gets you a spirited fete lasting 10 days that attracts hordes of revelers and takes over an entire town or a city district. think depending on circumstances, um, could see like, you know, if you've done a thing for a lord or something that as part of your rewards they'll throw you a feast like that. And finally, for the is 2 legendary weeks of drinking and debauchery widespread enough to take over a whole city. It attracts countless celebrants, including famous nobles and bards. The streets run red with wine. Um, I'll just read out a couple of the results. 1. You wake up blurrily in your bed. Gain 2 XP. 3. You wake up in a gutter with 15% of your total wealth spent for 3 XP. 6. The Thieves Guild bilked you for 5% of your total wealth. Gain 4 XP. 7. You led an entire tavern in a wildly insulting song about a disliked noble. Gain 4 XP and a famous bard ally. 10. An angry wizard cast a deadly spell at you, but you reflected it off in your cup. Gain 5 XP and a luck token. Well, that's interesting because I think you really used up your luck there. 11. You performed a humiliating prank on a despised and corrupt merchant. Gain 5 XP and an ally in the city watch. And 14 plus, you wake up deep inside the local ruler's stronghold, holding one of their priceless family heirlooms. Footsteps approach. Gain 6 XP and a 90 to 100 item from your treasure table if you manage to escape. So it just looks like a pretty simple dice rolling game. All the rules have been pretty. Yes, I'll go ahead. Well, and we're just short on time, so I think we can go ahead and skip the play example there. And so it looks like next time, which is I think tomorrow, we'll get into the GM section, which at a glance looks like it might take more than one day to get through, given about how long. Although there's already been some repetitive advice, so maybe going on we can skim through more. But yeah, that is it for today.